In this video, I'm going to show you how to start Ansys and save your Ansys project on Apps on Demand, which I'll abbreviate as AOD. Apps on Demand is a kernel service that lets you access Ansys and other software from any device. Of course, if you have Ansys installed locally, you can start Ansys Workbench by typing in Workbench into the search and selecting the appropriate version. I have it on this machine. It's also available in many of the engineering computer labs. If you don't have Ansys locally, you can run it remotely using Apps on Demand. So come to the Canvas site that lets you access Apps on Demand. I'm using the Canvas site for MAE 3270, and you will see an option on the left that says Apps on Demand MAE, and click on that. And this works very well on Chrome. I haven't tested it in other browsers. And you will see, the applications that are available to the MAE community, Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering community. And I will click on Workbench, and this is the current version. And it doesn't say Ansys here, so don't be confused by that. So I'll click on Workbench. And this basically spins up a server in the among the servers available through Amazon AppStream. This under the hood is actually an Amazon service, and so it takes a couple of minutes to spin up the server in Amazon server farm and launch Ansys on it. And while that's happening, if I go to the slide here, one thing you need to keep in mind is that when you're working, when you're running Ansys on Apps on Demand, save everything to the temporary files folder. And we will be putting stuff in here. However, as the name indicates, this is a temporary folder. So when the session ends or one gets kicked off because of inactivity, everything on this, at the end of the session, everything in this folder is wiped out. So you have to make sure that at the end of the session or periodically, you copy everything to OneDrive, which is a cloud drive from Microsoft. You can think of it as Microsoft's version of Google Drive. So what we'll be doing is we'll be saving files. We'll be running Ansys from temporary files and then saving, critical files to OneDrive. And more on that as we go through the session. And I would recommend not running Ansys from OneDrive. I've run into many problems, and I've seen this happen to students too, and they lose data. So you have the best luck running it from temporary files, which is what we will do. Now, if I go back, I see that Workbench has been launched. And let me make this, let me drag this and make this a separate window. And what I will do is first to show you how to save, let's save it. So I'll say File, Save, and I'll click on this PC. And you see temporary files. You won't see the OneDrive unless you attach it, and I'll get to that. I'll highlight temporary files, and I will give my project a name. I'll call it Wingspar Sim, and I use underscores because that's what you have to do in Linux, and I was kicking and screaming from Linux to Windows, and I will say Save. Now if I start File Explorer, so this is the the launch app option gives me access to all the apps. And I will click on File Explorer, again this PC, temporary files, and you see Ansys has created this WBPJ file, which I'll refer to as the J file, and an associated folder and a backup. And the backup will go away when you exit Ansys, but you need the file and the folder. And one of the most common ways students trip up is they think they need only this file, and it's tiny. Most of the data is in this folder. So either you can zip it, or you can be lazy like me and get Ansys to zip it. And the way you do that is I'll go back to Wingspar, and I can switch between apps using this option here, the switch windows option. By the way, these options are all super useful. So I'll go to switch windows, and I will go back here, and I will say File, Archive. And I'll just give it, I'll use the default name, and you see it's a WBPZ, Z for zip. So I'll call this the Z file, and it's going into temporary files. And I'll say Save. And I will select everything to make sure I don't lose anything, and I'll say Archive. And then if I come back to the temporary files folder, and if I sort by date modified, I see it's created the WBPZ or Z file, and this has everything in it. So now if I go to, if I go back to the slide, what I did was I created first the J file and the folder using file save. Then using file archive, I created the Z file, and this has everything. So we'll periodically keep, updating this, and this is what we need to copy to OneDrive. And so for that, let's do that. So first, what you have to do is you have to attach your OneDrive, which I have done already, which is why I see it over here under this PC. And the way you attach it is you go to this option, the My Files option, and then you say Add Storage. And the service is moving away from Google Drive. You should see OneDrive. I don't see it because I've already attached it. So pick OneDrive and then log in using your Cornell NetID and password, and you'll also have to do the dual login. And then once you do that, you should see both the temporary files and the OneDrive. And after you do that, go back to temporary files and go to the Z file and copy it. Right click and copy, or use Control C, and then go back to this PC, OneDrive, Files, and I've created, a folder called Wingspar, and I already have one here. So let me just delete that. I was playing around with this, and let me paste what I just created. So now this is saved into a cloud drive, so it's available from everywhere. For instance, you can access it from your browser by going to OneDrive.cornell.edu, and you need to log in using your NetID and password. And once you log in, you can come to My Files, and I'll see the Wingspar folder, and I see the file. I can also access it through Windows Explorer on my local machine. So if you have Windows, you'll have OneDrive, and if you log in, you'll see it over here. So it's very convenient. It appears just as a folder on my machine, and you can access it by just typing in. You can log into OneDrive in Windows Explorer by going to, just typing in OneDrive and just logging into that. So that should give you an idea of how to save your project, both to temporary files and then copy it to OneDrive.